I got to attend the world premiere of The Fire Inside, which is a new boxing biopic coming out this Christmas from Amazon and MGM, and it tells the story of a young Claressa Shields growing up in Flint, Michigan, and it pretty much documents her journey from becoming an amateur boxer all the way to her trying out for the Olympics. And on paper, yeah, it sounds like a movie you've seen before, and that's exactly how I thought this entire story was going to play out. But the film is directed by Rachel Morrison, who, if you don't know, is the first woman to ever be nominated for Best Cinematographer at the Academy Awards. She was nominated for her work on Mudbound, and she's worked a lot with Ryan Coogler in the past on films like Fruitvale Station and Black Panther. And cinematographers don't really have a great track record of transitioning from shooting a movie to actually directing one of their own. Like, one of the biggest films at TIFF that we thought was going to be good was Pedro Palermo, which I ended up not seeing because everyone I heard saw it really didn't like it. You could go through the history books of a lot of failed movies that came from cinematographers, so they just don't have the best track record in transitioning into that role, which makes it even more impressive to say that this film feels like Rachel's third or fourth picture, because to say that she crushed this is an absolute understatement. This feels like a very, very impressive directional debut. One of the best we've gotten in the past 10 years. Obviously, when you have an Academy Award nomination for shooting a movie, you would expect the one that you're directing to look pretty good. But this movie looks beautiful, even though it's not necessarily shooting the most beautiful place in the world in terms of visuals, but they make Flint look beautiful in its own way, and it really does a great job of showcasing that culture, even in the cold winter area. But they really do a great job of showing the beauty of Flint, and we'll get to that in terms of the culture that they portray later on, but I think they really take advantage of their environment and make something beautiful out of it. And even though she didn't work with Ryan Coogler on Creed, I could only imagine he gave her some pointers about working on a boxing sequence, and the ones we get here are really damn good. And the way they set up this movie, I don't know how to explain it other than it didn't need great boxing sequences at all. Because what Barry Jenkins does with the script and Rachel Morrison does with the directing, they do an excellent job early on in the film and throughout the entire timeline in setting the stakes of what this girl has to lose. So by the time the final boxing match happens, I swear to God, the guy next to me was doing this. Like, he was dodging punches with Claressa, because you feel the stakes here. Like, you are rooting for this girl from start to finish. And I think a lot of that has to do with the portrayal that newcomer Ryan Destiny does for Claressa Shields. Very similar to how it feels like this is Rachel's second, third, or fourth movie. This feels like the fourth or fifth time that Ryan is leading a movie, even though this is seemingly her first big role. And you just feel like you're watching Claressa Shields. And I say this all the time. It's not just with biopics. It's with so many movies where a lot of times it just feels like you're watching actors and be really good as actors, but they still feel like they're being actors. But with Ryan Destiny, you just feel like you're watching a real person the entire time. I thought she absolutely killed it. And after this, she is definitely a name to keep your eye on over the next decade, because I think she's absolutely incredible. Now, Brian Tyree Henry plays her trainer, Jason Crutchfield, and he is always good. I don't think it's any shocker to say that Brian Tyree Henry is good in this movie. He's just one of those performers, every time you see him on screen, you feel like he's not trying. Like, you know he is, but he just comes off so naturally gifted that he's just good in everything. It's almost unfair, because he just shows up and gives one of the best performances of the year almost every time he's on screen. And I could see somebody saying he feels like he's just playing Brian Tyree Henry again, but at the same time, I would say this character has fit his best qualities of an actor better than any character I've seen him play in recent memory. He just naturally fits into the role, and the chemistry between him and Ryan Destiny feels so real. It feels like a real boxer and her trainer. And even though it doesn't seem like Amazon is going to do a big push in terms of an Oscar campaign for this movie, if there's a world where either of them somehow get in that fifth slot in terms of nominations, I would not be upset at all. I'd be very happy, because they are both really damn good here. And I also think Rachel Morrison, like I said, I already mentioned that she does a great job directing, but I think she does a great job at painting the culture in a perfect way. And maybe that has to do with something like Barry Jenkins being your writer, because he actually wrote this before Moonlight and talked about how he was really hungry to get work, but you could still tell the dude has always been talented. But I just feel like it would be so easy to get another writer and director combo to tell this exact story. But if they got any other two people to do it, it would not feel nearly as authentic as the team that they got. Because when you watch this movie, you feel like you're watching Claressa Shields and everybody that grew up with her. And I don't know how to describe it other than, I know I just said Brian and Ryan are incredible in the movie, but there are a handful of actors that aren't in the film as much, that don't get too much screen time. and they're still just as good as those two. You'll have a guy that says literally maybe 2 lines in the movie, but he feels like a real person in Flint. And I love when a movie does that, because so many movies have that movie quality to them, where you feel like you're watching actors, and this is not one of those by any means. And without spoiling too much of the film, I think if you go into this thinking you know where the film goes, I would understand where you're coming from. But what makes The Fire Inside that much better is it doesn't end where most of these boxing movies tend to end. In fact, that's just where the third act kind of begins. And I love when a sports movie does something like this. That's one of the things that made Foxcatcher so interesting for me. And even though this isn't exactly like Foxcatcher, there are some elements that I would compare that to. And whenever a sports film does that, it just elevates it above everything else in its class in recent memory. And I went in hoping I would like this, because when a sports movie is good, I'm a pretty big sucker for it. I just find them so interesting and just so rewatchable. And a lot of them do make you feel good. At the end of the day, they do end up being pretty hit or miss. And I would say The Fire Inside is an easy hit for me. If Amazon knows how to market this and get it into theaters, I could easily see around Christmas time being a good word of mouth movie. Like, I think a lot of people want to see this. It's one that is really hard to dislike, but I could totally see it going way too under the radar. So that's why I'm really trying to get the word out early on this movie. The Fire Inside, to me, is a must watch. It's not only one of my favorites of the film festival, but right now it's in my top 10 of the entire year of 2024. I think it's really great. And to be honest, this was the only film of the 37 that I saw at the film festival that made me cry. And if that doesn't count for something, I don't know what does. If this feels like a shorter review than usual, it's because this is a segment of a much larger video that I've put on the channel already, kind of reviewing my entire experience of the Toronto International Film Festival this year. I saw about 37 movies, which is absolutely crazy, and I talk about all of them in that video. Some of these are the biggest Oscar players of the year, some of them are the best horror movies of the year, whatever it is. We talk about a lot of movies in that video, so a link to that full video will be in the description here. But if you just want to see the shorter reviews that keep coming out over the next week or two, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of those reviews that drop. This is also all of my social media right here, so if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, I check Letterboxd the most. I haven't been as active on this because I've been working on this video and so many other projects over the past month, but I love talking about movies on there. So if you want to keep up with what I'm watching, be sure to watch that. Also, shout out to Reed for being so patient with me and helping edit all these videos and getting all these exports out. So if you need help with any editing at all, be sure to hit him up. He will absolutely help your videos out a ton. Be sure to like these videos, whether it's this video, the Long Toronto video, they all help me out a ton. It helps more than you think. I know a lot of people ask for you to hit the like button, but it helps me pay Reed to help me keep editing these videos. So if you won't like it for me, like it for Reed. And be sure to comment down below. Have you seen this movie yet? If the film has come out, what did you think of it? If it hasn't come out yet, are you excited for it still? Did my opinion change? I mean, this outro is going on the end of all my videos. So with this specific movie, I don't know if I loved it or if I hated it, but you know what? At the end of the day, a day talking about movies is a good day. So I'd love to talk to you in the comment section down below. And that is it for me. So this is Chase. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks.